impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause.
We move about our planet in a very subtle way, trying to accomplish whatever we can accomplish. We will notice that there are exterior forces that may control or monitor our lives. Some of these can be very simple, like an MRI machine, or maybe just a cell tower that you're driving by. In this world we live in, we are affected by many external forces. In astrology, they say the planets can offer some assistance to manipulating our current reality, to set us into certain moods by their electromagnetic forces. Talking about electromagnetic forces, today we'll talk a little bit about magnetism and non-magnetism. You see before me here is a pair of scissors. These are just your typical pair of cutting scissors. You can cut paper or material, cloth, whatever you would like. Now, we'll take a magnet you can buy at any hardware store or Hobby Lobby store, and you can see that it is magnet. This magnet does stick to these pair of scissors. So these scissors are made not out of non-magnetic properties, they're made out of a magnetic property. And this magnet easily sticks to them with no problem. And you can get magnets in different sizes. This is a magnet to put on bulletin boards and things like that. So these magnets are very strong. They can hold a lot of weight, and they use their magnetic properties very well. Now you can go and also get some smaller magnets. These are very small individualized magnets, again for bulletin boards or whatever you would like, and you can see that they stick very well. The magnetic properties combined in effort to certain materials. So some magnets will stick to certain metals and they won't to others. But you can see here that this magnetic property is very constant and very strong. So these scissors, you might say, can be magnetized. And they have the properties of either iron or some type of stainless steel that a magnet can easily stick to. So here we have a basic set of scissors, basic set of magnets, and they attract each other very simply. Very easy to see. And so if we look at these magnetic properties and how they attract each other, maybe there are other magnetic properties that also attract or not attract. People say that there's a magnetism in all of us, and we call it either some type of magnetic properties or electroshock properties, and then when we come across someone that we're very fond of, these properties excite and they become magnetic, a magnetic attraction. We use these things very commonly in our everyday language for inspiration, for the culmination of getting two things together that really stick. A yin and yang, you might say, of magnetic properties. Now, magnetic properties are also used throughout our entire bodies, such as our muscles, as well as our brains. They're electromagnetic properties. Small circuits in our bodies react to current running from our brains. That's why my hands move when I talk, and my lips, and my larynx. I don't have to really think about it. They just kind of do it over practice and time. So these are electromagnetic properties as of such, and we also use electromagnetic properties to analyze electromagnetic properties. So we can say that an MRI machine is electromagnetic donut, you might say, that we can slide into, and it is scanning through electromagnetism our bodies in a digital means, and our bodies are also electromagnetic. Many people over the course of time have suggested that the Earth, as well as other planets, have large electromagnetic properties, and that's what really governs the way the space laws of physics actually work. That even the mass of the Earth may play a critical role in governing the space fabric and space-time around it, such as our Sun and other large planets, like Saturn or Jupiter. Now, we understand space warping because of mass or magnetism. But what if we were using something very ancient that did not require any of this, but still required an external force or exterior force for it to be manipulated? So you can take one magnet, small magnet, and it is repelling. It's not wanting to stick to the rest of the magnets. We call this repulsion, magnetic repulsion. So there must be a North Pole and a North Pole that are the same, that repel each other so that they separate. They can't get together. Their opposites attract and similarities repel. That's the way magnetism works. But what if there was an exterior force? An exterior force that did not require magnetism to have an effect on us. Now we can say electromagnetism is everywhere in our universe. Even in microwaves and cell phones and our microwave ovens, these things are magnetic properties emitting a wave. This wave is a carrier wave, and it affects something else, and it pops popcorn. The microwave oven will pop popcorn or heat water or cook food by exciting something within that particle, such as meat or popcorn or water, and it excites it. So it's exciting the water molecules in whatever you're putting in the microwave oven in order for it to react. Now, this is done by microwaves. It's a carrier wave. A carrier wave is used in radar, cell phones, and other devices for communications as well as to sea. Submarines use a form of sonar as well as a form of electromagnetic waves in order to communicate and also see as they're underwater, navigating, you might say, underwater. Their type of communication is called ELF, or extra long microwave communication, so that they can actually see or talk to areas that are way beyond their scope. Submarines are basically using a low frequency modulation so that it has more power, so it can traverse the water and they can communicate to satellites and ship to ship. So these are what we understand as man-made, highly powerful units of that are created by electrical means that are then transmitted or translated from electromagnetic energy or properties into what we call a carrier wave. And the carrier wave is then transmitted, and then it's received by another device, very similar, that can monitor the frequencies. So take a look like we have your average radio or average television. The average television, no matter what signal, if it's HD or analog or digital, will have a digital receiver. So the transmission is received. So the carrier has to transmit on the same frequency as the station you're watching, or you're not going to be able to see what you're watching. These are very simple concepts, and I'm trying to extrapolate that these are man-made and they work upon a basic principle of electromagnetism. The electromagnetism is transferred, the energy is transferred into waves we cannot see, but still pass through houses, bodies, airplanes, and go to an antenna of some kind that decodes them and then drops them into the unit that you're actually watching. The average person does not realize that there's over 80,000 cell phone carrier waves transmitting through their entire bodies at any given time. The average person in an airplane will probably receive 200,000 cell phone carrier waves as it passes through the airplane. Whether it's used on the ground, it's still transmitted either by satellite and or by cell tower, or to cell tower and then by satellite. So if I'm in St. Louis and I want to call Los Angeles on my cell phone, well, it's not going to go across a line. It'll go to a cell tower, to a satellite, to another satellite, and then probably down to a cell tower, and then reach the person, the party that I'm trying to contact. And in between all that, everyone and everything will receive that carrier wave, that particle wave created by the chain reaction on my cell phone. That's why it's called a cell phone, because it's one small cell in an entire network or body of electromagnetic transmitters, responders, and receivers. So in our demonstration with the scissors, we know that certain things have certain magnetic properties. That's why they conduct electricity, or that's why they are magnetically attracted to certain things. So now we'll do another experiment. This is an easy experiment when you have certain metals that do not attract. We have brass and copper, and these are what we would call dowsing rods. Now I've put pieces of tape on the end of this red tape just for you, the viewer, to see them as we dowse. So you can see which directions that they will go. Now we'll do the same thing that we did with the scissors, and that is we'll try to make a magnet stick to them. And you can see this powerful industrial magnet doesn't stick to them at all. And even in the copper, you can do this with a penny as well. If you get a real pure piece of copper, it is non-magnetic. Now, does it carry a charge? Possibly it does. Copper is normally used for wiring because it carries an excellent electrical charge. But the brass, again, the brass is non-magnetic, and the handles that are made of copper are not magnetic either. And no matter what magnet we use, they're still not magnetic. So there has to be an exterior force. Now, there could be an exterior force, let's say the universe, or a guide that would come to you and you would like to communicate with that guide. What you can do is use something called dowsing rods, and dowsing rods are well known for water witching. That's where they originally came from. But it was also used for finding gold, minerals, underground water, things like this, objects that have been lost. And for each dowser, they mean a little bit different definition, you might say. But the more you use them, and the more confident you are, the easier and easier it is to find different things. So you might want to find an energy vortex. Well, you would use these. You can use other things like a tri-field meter or a K2 meter, but in the end game, they may not be sensitive enough to find the real vortex. So here we have water witching and dowsing in these non-magnetic rods. So they do conduct a small amount of electricity, as any metal would, but here in this we'll see what we can see. So I have them now balanced, they're pointing directly at you, and I will ask to show me which way is yes. Yes, see? And then I'll say, show me which way is no. Now you may think that I'm using my hands or my muscles, or this is an autonomic response. Basically what it is a digital form of yes and no, and it is passing through my body and making the rods move. in a non-electromagnetic response. Now, we can say that it could be in my aura, my bioelectrical field that makes them move, but I can ask questions and they can respond to those questions. So I will say, in a yes and no form, I will ask a question because we're only dealing with yes and no's. So is the energy that is making these rods move passing through my body to give me a direction? And the rods are saying yes. They're going to this area on this side, and that means yes. And so that's how technically it will work. So I will say, again, show me which way is no. And this is my no side. So if I'm wrong in any of my questioning, it will tell me no. Now, all I have to do is use a trigger option in my mind to go and look for what I'm looking for. So I will say, where is the electricity? And I can walk forward and it would cross where the electricity would cross. I can ask, where is the gold or diamond ring that I've lost? And I could walk around, and when it comes to a cross, that's when I found it. So let me ask another question. Today, I'm going to inform you it's a very cold day outside, and I will ask, is it a cold day outside? And it's going to the yes side. And I will ask the same question a little bit differently. Is it a very hot day outside? And it's going to no. So it is a good truth detector. We can detect truths, we can detect objects and unseen or exterior forces. Now, who am I talking to? Well, that's another exterior force which I can introduce. I do have a guide, and the guide helps me dowse. Because when I first started dowsing, it took me over a year to learn how to dowse, and it took me even longer than that to ask the proper questions. So I will ask my guide, I think this is my guide, and he's saying, yes, it is. I'll ask my guide, is it possible to monitor exterior forces by using dowsing rods? Yes, it is. Now, this may not be as accurate as a scientific tool, because you're actually using your own biasness on its accuracy. But the guides normally know to a certain degree on how accurate they really are. So it's really an opinionated process. They can be accurate within 100th or 100,000ths, depending on the accuracy of your question that you're asking. So if you say, will it snow 1 inch outside? And he'll say no. Then I'll say, will it snow 2 inches outside? And he'll say no. Will it snow less than that? Will the accumulation be less than that? And he'll say yes. So you can almost predict the weather. You can almost predict events in time, or find objects or energies that don't normally exist by the visual eye, by the human perspective. So there are many exterior forces that we can adapt to or find out about, and that's by using very simple tools. Now, again, if I was hooked up to an EEG machine, which is a scientific tool on brainwave monitoring, I could also detect which brainwaves were being used by these dowsing rods. And that would give me a brainwave connection to my guide. So we have machines now that can virtually read our minds and our thoughts and produce them on a monitor or television screen. So we can say, we can think the word apple, and the word apple will appear on the screen. People who are quadriplegics or have major incidences where they can no longer verbally speak use this type of machine with a halo, which is wrapped around the head, so they can actually project the words they actually would like to use, and they appear on a television screen. So if we can do that, then we can also reverse the process and find out what exterior forces are affecting us, and that could be produced upon a screen, which we would be able to see the heightened activity of our brains. And that could be my frontal lobes or my hypothalamus or my pineal gland. The whole idea is that there are certain pockets of the brain that have access to external forces that we don't use on a daily basis or regular basis. And he's agreeing with me. So it's not really me. I'm not moving my hands. I'm just, my body is responding through a type of carrier signal to the entire event of this consciousness that is outside my body, giving me digital answers, ones, zeros, or yes and no answers, and it can be monitored if I was hooked up to some other scientific device. Now, the whole idea is to not only monitor these external forces, but to help the external forces assist us in our day-to-day activities as much as we can to find true destiny in our lives. Like I said, I was not able to dowse for a long time. It took me years of practice and years of learning how to do the questions. The idea is that if you really want to monitor external forces using dowsing rods, you would have to go to a haunted house or a haunted location. In this haunted location, by using and manipulating the dowsing rods, you can actually determine how many entities are there and if there is a large number. In many instances, while I've been dowsing it in a haunted location. But the way I know that it's haunted is by my scientific equipment that actually can videotape the entities while in flight. So when I dowse, and I dowse in a hornet's nest or a group of entities that may be giving me false information, I still have a guide that can give me the correct information. And I can ask my guide to look around from his point of view to see if there's any danger for myself or anybody that I'm with. Many times when an entity will fly by dowsing rods, they will actually move the dowsing rods, giving you a false answer or a false positive. So in many instances, it's best to know your guide, your own capability, and the answers and the questions that those answers are derived by. So a lot of times I start out with asking how many ghosts are present, and we go through the numbers. Or are there angels present? Are there any elementals present? And then we can extrapolate from that. Sometimes there may be 50 ghosts and 2 angels. Sometimes there may be 10 elementals and no angels. It just depends on how you want to look at it. In many cases, there is always an angel nearby. And that is probably to monitor the scenario of what the group, the core ghostly attitude is versus those who are investigating that core group. So what we have in many times is a lifeguard that monitors both parties. If one party is too aggressive or too violent, the angel will intercede. And if the other group is too violent, too aggressive, the angel will again intercede. Many people go out on investigations and become injured or hurt because they are blind. They have no concept of the real number or danger that is coming from the entities they're trying to investigate. So when you watch these shows on television, remember, they may only find one out of 100 entities that are occupying that area. Entities are either predatory or territorial. They will either follow you and play with you, or they will defend where they're at. They're going to defend their home. They're going to defend their place, their little slice of where they're at. So they don't want you in their space. That's one type of ghost. Or the other type of ghost is going to play with you and give you false information or just do whatever they want because they know that you are outgunned, outmatched all the way through. There is very seldom ever an accurate accounting of all the entities present at a haunted location, and there's very seldom ever a good way to control communications between what you're after to prove or disprove that it's haunted versus what they really want on their side. So if they don't want you there, we don't have a way of asking them. We have a way of using EVPs through micro digital recorders, or the idea of just trying to perform a seance to find out what their true meaning is really all about. I suggest in many cases, learn the basics before you extrapolate further. Many people like to say that they have all the goodies in the bag, all the technology that is available. But in many cases, that's wrong, that's false. They only have the technology that they think is available. I myself have developed equipment so I can see entities, so I can monitor them. But the best effort is really the human condition. The human body is more capable of detecting and sensing subtle electromagnetic forces that are around it. These exterior forces are the key to unraveling the entire mystery. So there's a new law of physics in town, and it says it's an external force. But the external force needs to be paid attention to. I think on this journey, we can go and see and realize that the external forces are part and parcel greater than the sum total of our reality. All we have to do is look into that direction. It's as simple as taking a pair of scissors and a magnet. But it's so incredible that when you have a non-magnetic source that still responds, it may be through some type of energy in my body that we have not found yet, leads us to believe that not all of science has been found out. And that every day we need to keep looking for these subtle forces, these subtle external forces, so that we can have a fuller and richer life. This is my personal journey. I'm trying to explain it the best I can, because now we're in a sea not of electromagnetics, we're in a sea of a new form of physics that combines all of it together. Someone asked me about the E-SETI project, the E-SETI project that's listening for sounds or carrier waves from other civilizations that are deep in space. And someone said, why haven't we found any of these signals yet? Because, I'll give a simple answer, maybe they're not using this type of technology. Maybe they've grown out of it, or they haven't grown into it. These carrier waves travel through immense distances, and for us to capture just one little glimpse of an alien language may be almost impossible. They say everything they've done over the past 30 or 40 years has equated to just one drop in an entire ocean of information. But what if they are surprised to find out that it's not a carrier wave, an RF signal, it is telepathy, another form of carrier wave, but mainly on the spiritual side. Come with me on my personal journey into the exterior forces in our lives. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Michael Lynch. I'll talk with you soon.
This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.